Students, this lab is called Endothermic and Exothermic Reactions Lab. It's a really simple, straightforward lab. All we're going to do is mix together a substance called sodium bicarbonate, better known as baking soda. And we're going to mix some calcium chloride. And we're going to use a indicator molecule that also helps the reaction get going, called phenol red. There's water inside this reaction that will be one of the reactants. In this lab, all we're doing is introducing the concept of thermochemistry. And so some reactions are going to take heat from the environment into the reacting molecules. Other reactions will take heat energy from the reacting molecules and push it out into the environment. And this is a simple hands-on way to get that to happen and in a way that we can observe. So we're going to take a Ziploc bag. I'm going to open it up. And I'm going to use my finger to separate the Ziploc bag into two compartments. So I have a compartment on this side and a separate compartment on this side. Into one of the two compartments, I'm going to add, without counting too carefully, about 2 or 3 scoops of baking soda. And into the compartment on the other side of the Ziploc bag, I'm going to add 2 or 3 scoops of calcium chloride. Again, you don't have to count very carefully or measure very carefully because we're just doing this qualitatively. Okay, so I've got a Ziploc bag with calcium chloride on this side and baking soda on this side. And I'm going to add to each of those sides a little bit of phenol red. So I'm going to take probably 2 squirts, 2 full squirts. And to the side that has baking soda, I can feel the bag getting cold on this side. So the bag gets cold for cold to the touch for the side that has baking soda and phenol red. Now I'll add a couple of squirts of phenol red to the side of the bag that has calcium chloride. And I'm feeling, and this side feels warm. So when phenol red is mixing with calcium chloride, it's warm to the touch. When phenol red mixes with baking soda, it's cold to the touch. Now on the data table, you'll see that there's a place to record that. So in the data table, baking soda and phenol red, visual observations, I just see a white powder with a reddish liquid. Temperature observations for baking soda and phenol red is cold, colder. For calcium chloride and phenol red, again, it's a white powder with a red liquid for visual observations. And temperature observation, it gets hot. Now for the fun part, I'm going to seal the bag at the top thoroughly. And then we're just going to dump the 2 sides together. Now watch carefully. We see some bubbling and we see a brand new yellowish color. And we can mix this around. I'll pour it back to the other side. Visual observations is that we see a lot of bubbling happening. You can actually can even see the bag starting to fill up with gas. That's some carbon dioxide gas that's starting to fill the bag, and a color change. Temperature observations, this is actually feeling cold. So the mixing of baking soda, calcium chloride, and phenol red produces a temperature observation of cold to the touch. Visual observation, a yellow color and bubbling. And then if we take a moment to take a quick look at the analysis, it says, what evidence do you have that a chemical reaction was occurring? Well, students, any kind of a temperature change, color change, or production of a gas would be evidence of a chemical reaction. Well, in all three of the reactions, we saw at least a temperature change. In the last reaction, we saw both a color change and bubbling as well. Question 2, which reaction or reactions were endothermic? Those would be the ones that are cold to the touch. Now, why is that? Think, if we're the chemists here, we're always considering the perspective of the reacting molecules. If the reacting molecules are pulling heat in from the surroundings, including the molecules of my hand, then it's going to be perceived by me as cold. So those reacting molecules that feel cold to me are endothermic reactions. So that would be the first reaction, baking soda and phenol red, and the final reaction, baking soda, calcium chloride, and phenol red. Question 3, which reactions were exothermic? These are the ones that are hot to the touch. As chemists, again, we're considering the perspective of the reacting molecules. So if the reacting molecules are giving off heat to the surroundings, including my hand, which was touching the bag, then heat would have been given to my hand, and therefore I perceive that as hot. So the one reaction that was perceived as hot was reaction number 2, calcium chloride and phenol red. And that's it for our lab report. It's a very short and sweet lab.